Hi, it's Tuesday at 6:30, so it's time for What We're Reading. Tonight, I am very privileged to have Grandville royalty with me tonight. I've got the mayor of Grandville, Mr. Steve Maas. I've got Ken Krombeen, the city manager, and I've got Josh Bernstein, who is the manager of KDL's Grandville branch. All of them are here with me tonight, so of course I'm going to have to ask them about the big renovation Grandville at the library. Who wants to start telling me about Grandville's renovation project?
Oh, if I'd like to go first, please, because
Yes,
I don't know
yes.
whether I don't know whether we've been persistent or patient or both, but library renovation has been on in the works for many, many years. A number of different councils have looked at it, and a couple of years ago, we council all came to a consensus. This is what we'd like to do. Price tag was a little bit more than we thought, but the council decided let's try and raise some funds before we bond. Let's go out and try and raise some funds. So we did that. It's been very successful. I think we've raised about 800,000 just from local people and out of a $5 million project. And the project is called Building Beyond Books, to really show that a library is more than just a place to house books. And the name of the extra space that we're creating is going to be the Grandville Community Commons. And so that's very exciting that we're going to have a place where people can come and congregate. There's going to be a lot of new restroom area that people can come and use from the exterior without going into the library. So when we have festivals downtown, it's really easy to get in there. And then there's going to be a lot of study rooms that are going to be added, as well as
Okay.
a drive-up book drop. So lots of cool things.
Oh, okay. And what is this I hear about the farmers market kind of happening there too?
Yes, next, just north of our library, the Downtown Development Authority is doing a project at the same time, since things are going to be a little messy for a while. And so we're putting in a permanent farmers market and just some other amenities that are going to be a great complement to the library, because the library has a lot of programming that we can do during our farmers market, which we've had in that area before. And it's just it's going to be a great gathering place. So I'm very, very excited about the project.
Yay. Josh, as the library manager, what kind of program do you expect to do out there?
Oh, we're just excited to try all sorts of things. I mean, anybody who's come to events here during the summer before knows we like to enjoy the outside. We've got a gorgeous amphitheater that the city had the forethought to put in, whatever it is, 29 years ago when this library was built, that we always love to host concerts and talent shows and things in. And now we can kind of bridge that out further into this pavilion and continue to tie in with all the great city events that the city event planner has. And if it happens to be a rainy day, we'll now have the community commons, which will be big enough to house some of those events that we normally have to do outside. So we're pretty excited. I find it interesting hearing Mayor Maas talking about how this has been kind of something the city's been looking at it for so long, because I was just remembering as I was training a new staff member, telling them about this building plan recently, that I started here as the teen librarian 14-ish years ago. And I remember one of the first things, other than how to check books in and out, that my boss at the time, Patrice, told me about was this exciting space study and beginning space needs and architectural plan that was just developed with the city looking at expanding the library at the time and doing all of this stuff. And then, 2008 and economy did all sorts of not fun things, and it kind of went away, and then it, has been kind of on that back burner. So it's exciting to be part of it now.
Yay, well, that is exciting. Mayor, tell me again what you just said before we went live about how many people the library draws into the community.
Well, a lot of people. The library is probably the biggest draw of any. If it was a business, it would be the biggest business downtown, drawing the most people in, I would think. People in our community are in love with their library. And it is a busy place. I know the circulation numbers have traditionally been pretty high there. And so, it's just going to bring even more people into downtown area. It's great. It's great for business. It's great for our community.
It's wonderful to hear such positive things. Okay. Does anyone have anything else to say about the renovation?
I do have one thing that I don't want to forget, and that is we are still in the fundraising process. So if you live in Grandville or love the Grandville Library, it's the Building Beyond Books campaign. And if you want to go online and learn more about it, it's long web address, but it's Grandville Building Beyond Books.com. So Grandville Building Beyond Books.com, and you can learn all about it. And Ken, I don't know, is there a link on there that you can donate to? Probably.
There is, yes.
I just put that link in our comments. So you'll be able to link from the comments if you're watching us on Facebook. So yeah, so click there if you want to help out. What a great cause. And I love to see such positive things happening in the community. I need to hear positive things. 2020 is almost done.
That's
it's
a positive thing right
positive. Yes. But this is my show and it's Tuesday night, so I have to ask my question. I'll start with the mayor out of respect. Mayor Maas, what are you reading?
Well, I'm reading, I always have a few books going at once, but the book that I just finished that I love, it's called The Splendid and the Vile. And it's by Erik Larson. And it's about the first year of Winston Churchill's prime ministership. And what I love about it, I've read a lot of books about Churchill, but this has got some really minute details about, for example, on a weekend, how many cases of wine were delivered to his country house. And it just shows, kind of gives you a little flavor of the guy. He loved to entertain, loved to have people over. And what I love about Churchill during this period is they were facing a crisis of their very survival. And he didn't sugarcoat it with the British people. He said, this is horrible. This is going to be really, really bad. But we're going to fight on the beaches, fight in the hills, and that. So that's what I liked about it. He was what I think is a really good leader. I'm going to tell you the truth. It's going to be bad, but we can do it. So that's what I love about Churchill. There was also something very childlike about Churchill. Anytime I've ever seen him, he's always been very gruff and so on. But he was under such an incredible amount of stress that when he had two different places he went. Chequers was one place in the country, and then that wasn't really safe enough during the bombing, during the Battle of Britain. So he went to a friend's home. I think it was Chartwell, something like that. And he loved to entertain and hold court with people, but sometimes he just really had to let loose, and he would just act childish just to blow off some steam. So we've heard all these comments about that Churchill has made that are really kind of over the top and rude, but there was a playfulness about him too that I had never seen. And what I liked was it was kind of what's going on in the background, because we all know historically what happened, but he had a number of children. One of them was a teenager. She had a boyfriend. There was a lot of angst about that. And, he was a real person too. He had a daughter who was in love, and he didn't know how he felt about that. So that was one book I'm reading. I just finished that one. Another one.
Oh, I have to stop you there. Yeah. Wait, Mayor, I have to stop you because we have to talk about this, because I've actually read Splendid and the Vile and I loved it. Yeah. And I was just going to throw in about Churchill. He used to sometimes run up to the roof when the bombings were going on, because he wanted to see what was happening. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
I think I might be in the basement at that point.
Sounds ill-advised.
I know. And he's running up to the roof. Yeah. I love Erik Larson. So I'm so glad. That's such a great to talk about.
Yeah. The other book I'm reading, I don't know if you can see it, but it's called Waking Up White. And so I was in a book group And we read that. And my wife and I have read it, and it's just an excellent book. I've got about 10 copies. So if anybody is in Grandville, I'll deliver one to your house. And so that's by Debbie Irving. And what I loved about that book, it talks about race in a way that I've never thought of it before, because when I've talked about race or racism, or my wife and I have said this, we've often talked about, oh, that person did this or that person did that, but never really looked, how do I fit in this whole narrative? What part do I play in the story of race? So that was really, really good. I mean, it's a very thought-provoking book. It would be great, I think, for a book club, because you really could spend a lot of time discussing it. So those are a couple of the books that I'm reading right now or have just finished. So
I've heard good things about the Waking Up White. That's on my growing list of books to look at some point or another.
Well, I've got lots of copies, Josh. I'll make sure you get one. And she's a very interesting author. I just love the book. Couldn't put it down. It takes me a while to read through this book. You just don't flip through the pages. You really have to stop and think. And at the end of the chapters, there are questions of self-reflection. So yeah, really, really good book.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Mayor. Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Grandville City Manager Ken Krombeen, you've been very quiet. So Ken, I'm going to pick on you and ask you what you're reading.
Well, before I do that, I wanted to comment on the mayor's choice, because I also read The Splendid and the Vile this summer. And the interesting thing for me about that was I'm also a Churchill fan and a history fan, but we had been over, my wife and daughter and I, to London a few years ago. And we visited the Churchill War Rooms, which include the underground bunker space that they ran the war from in England in the early stages of the war, I guess actually all through the war. And so, Penny, when you were talking about him going up on the roof, I think he was actually going up on the roof of that structure. And so I had the benefit of reading the book about him on the roof while also having seen where he slept to leave to go up in his pajamas to do that. So great choice, Steve, on the book. My book is The End of Everything by Dr. Katie Mack. And this is a nonfiction book. Dr. Mack is a cosmologist, which means that she studies the universe on the largest scales. And this book basically talks about how the universe might end eventually when it does. And it takes you through 5 scenarios: the big crunch, heat death, vacuum decay, the big rip, and the bounce. And she does a great job of explaining these things in non-physicist terms and explaining how the universe might come to an end either billions of years from now or in the next second, because the theories are that diverse. And it was really interesting how a topic this technical, she was able to bring down to human terms, and even there's a lot of humorous footnotes, a lot of surprises there. Some places I had to read several times to try to get my head around the concepts. It's written in a simple way, but the stuff that you're explaining is just so incredible. You're dealing with these tremendous distances, tremendous time, the Big Bang Theory, and all these theories about how things could turn around, none of which will we be around to see, I don't think. But it was a really interesting read, kind of a challenging one to think about. It really expanded the universe for me, to think about just how these light years go on, and they're able to see galaxies that have disappeared thousands of years ago, millions of years ago, but they're still seeing because of the nature of light and gravity and all that kind of thing. So I found it really interesting. I'm interested in science, but I'm nowhere near that kind of career or in my educational background. So it's pretty fascinating to me to read through this and to start thinking on a tremendously larger scale. As a city manager, about 8 square miles around me at any one time is my universe for the most part. And in this case, boy, that sure wasn't the case. So I recommend it. It's not necessarily scientific reading. It just really explains some real interesting pieces of the universe, both all the way to the ends of time and the beginning of time, and also down to particle physics and what they learn when they smash atoms together. So it was really enlightening.
Awesome. What was that called?
And not at all depressing about being about the end of everything.
No, you know what? Actually,
End of everything. No,
uplifting, but it's called The End of Everything, Astrophysically Speaking. She's on staff
and
at
none
North
of the
Carolina
actual
State
endings
University.
involve zombies.
I'm sorry.
And none of the actual endings involve zombies. No zombies.
No, there was no zombie apocalypse in this, but some of these concepts are really, really wild. So it's science. It's rooted in science. It's based on known research from decades back to Einstein, but it's almost as weird as zombies in some cases.
I'm going to be relieved that zombies are not part of any of her scenarios. Very relieved. Did you have another book too, Kat, or was that it?
I'm actually reading, maybe I got a theme here because this was the end of everything. And the other book I'm in the middle of right now is called And in the End. So I didn't intend for that to be a theme, the end. But the other book is a book that is by a gentleman named McNabb, and it chronicles the last year of the Beatles. Kind of goes month by month and day by day in 1969, and takes you basically through their last performance on the roof of the Abbey Road Studios, and all the intrigue between the Beatles and their representatives and finances. Quite detailed. I'm enjoying that as well.
Oh, sweet. Musical biographies are very, very popular right now. So did you learn something new about the Beatles so far that you didn't know before?
I've read Paul McCartney's biography, and so I've seen, and that was huge. That was covered so much territory. So I feel like I know a lot. But the really interesting thing about this book to me was it really got into their arguments. I was more familiar with their personalities, more familiar with their history, more familiar with their music. This shows a different side of them and where the insecurities lied and where the conflicts were rooted. So I definitely am learning a lot more about the details.
Fine. Well, thank you, Ken, for the end. Josh, how about you? What are you reading?
Well, just like everybody else, I've got two that I've got going on right now. I've usually got my more thoughtful book and my more for fun book. So I'll start with, I'm rereading a book called Recursion by Blake Crouch. It came out a year and a half ago. This is my kind of popcorn fun book that I just wanted to dive in again because it's exciting. Trying to figure out the best way to describe it without spoiling it, because it's getting far into this book is like all spoilers, but he deals a lot with the concept of memory and how memory defines our reality, right? And how it's time and reality is relative, and it's all relative to the way we view things and experience things. So this is it's a piece of fiction that talks about basically two different main characters. The first one is a New York police detective, Barry Sudden, and this occurs in a year or two ago in 2018, and he it kicks off with him, and he is actually heading up to the 41st floor of a building to deal with a woman who is threatening to commit suicide and jump off a balcony. Gets up there and starts talking to her, and he finds out that the reason she's upset and wants to end her life is that she suffers from I can't even remember the acronym, but basically a disease that's just starting to spread throughout the world, that is like this memory disease, where all of a sudden one day you have this whole set of memories that aren't yours, but they feel like yours. So you know who you are, you lived your life, you have that set. But so in this woman's case, she had a whole other set of memories that one day she woke up and they were there. She remembered in this life she's a single career woman, she remembered a life where she actually was married and had a young son, and now all of a sudden this is all gone, and she's trying, and she's trying to figure this all out and what this means. And she was so upset by, losing her husband and son and not knowing how, that, this was her reality. And so, this is a thing that's starting to spread, and it causing mass suicides because so many people are so confused and thrown and upset at what they've lost. And so it goes from that to the other character, Helena Smith, who is a neurologist, and this is 8 years previous to this, studying memory, and particularly wanting to create some way to implant memory to help people with Alzheimer's, particularly her mother, who's dealing with Alzheimer's. And she wants to find a way to physically save those memories so she can give them back to her as she's losing them or something. And she is about to meet a weird, reclusive, extremely rich billionaire who offers to fund all of her research. And these two characters and what they're going on with will soon intertwine into this really exciting kind of techno sci-fi thriller. I really can't say much more than that, because if you talk more, then you start getting into how it all works. But every single chapter throws you to a new loop, and you have no idea beforehand that they were going to go there. It's just super exciting. I learned today when I was kind of remembering this and reading a little bit about it as I started the book again, that I guess he was inspired by an article he read in the Smithsonian like in 2014 or so about some real science where some scientists had actually found a way to implant a false memory into a mouse. And, that this was the beginnings of potentially research that could be, the ability to save memory or help with Alzheimer's or who knows what else. But, and so this kind of inspired him to do this. His previous book, Dark Matter, was equally like mind bending and super exciting. So if you like fast moving books, dive in.
Okay.
So yeah. Then my other one, that's my popcorn. That's fun. If you just want to just kind of have a fast move and keep you up at night, that'll do it. My one that I'm kind of doing more to dive in and think about things, I'm doing kind of with a group of my friends, my wife and our families, that we're doing kind of a book club book. I find interesting that Mayor Maas brought up that book because it's a similar concept. We're reading a book called Raising White Kids, Bringing Up Children in a Racially Unjust America by Jennifer Harvey. And it's kind of that same thing, this idea that, we all grew up in a post-civil rights world where we all thought, we grew up thinking the best way to be in this world is just to be colorblind. And I think we're, as a society, starting to realize that doesn't work and that's not at all helpful. And that, while many people may not be overtly racist, there is systemic racism all around us. And the only way to deal with that is to start acknowledging our own part in it, but then also think about how we raise our kids to be aware of this as they go. But we're only, 2 chapters in so far, but it's very interesting and very challenging so far. So I'm really looking forward to kind of diving through that over the next month or two and seeing where we go with it.
What great books. Thank you all. I'm going to ask as a farewell if everybody would hold your book up so we can see the jackets again. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Please come out to Grandville when we reopen and see the progress. And we hope to be done with the renovation sometime late fall. And I'm so excited. It's going to be fabulous. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming out tonight. The website that you can donate to the new expansion is in the comment section, so please check it out. Thank you again, and have a good night.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Everybody wave.
Thanks. Thank you.